This time my guest is Andy Robertson, Liverpool's left back. Between Andy agreeing to appear on the show and meeting him at Liverpool's Melwood training centre, he put in a landmark performance in his team's wonderful 4-3 win over Manchester City. Lucky us, because this was still very fresh in his mind when we met. It's a long way from the fourth tier in Scottish football, where Andy started his career with Queen's Park, but he talked about experiences that gave him an important perspective on where he is now. He's come a long way. Thanks to all our socios. We need your help to do this. We couldn't and wouldn't do it without you. As I always say at the start of every big interview, we're with somebody that I admire, but we're with our youngest guest. He's a Scot, and currently he's the darling of the Kop, Andy Robertson. Thank you very much for welcoming us to this historic training ground. It's a kind of nice place to go to work every day, isn't it?
Yeah, it's always nice when you come through the gates. You know, it's there's so much history behind Melwood and at the club, of course, but you know, Melwood back in the day, you know, and it's still here today, so it's a great place to come in every day. And you know, once you get here, you get excited for your day ahead.
But a manty old fool like me will be thinking back about, you know, Shankly and St John and Susan. All of them played before you were watching football. And presumably what Melwood means to you every day is a chance to be in the first team come match day, but also the crack and you know, the wet and the challenges, and having a manager who brims enthusiasm. So when you come in, is the past just really on a daily basis? You never even think about it.
It's hard when you play with a club like this. You know, the past is obviously such a massive part of this city and this club. So, but as you get comfortable, I wouldn't say I'm completely comfortable yet, but you know, as I come in, you know, a couple of months, then you know, it's all about, you know, this is your workplace, and you start getting a wee bit more used to it, and you know, thinking, you know, this is the time to work, and like you said, try and get in the team on the match day on Saturday. Or it's a great environment to be in. Every staff in here, all the players, you know, it's all good fun, but when it's time to work, it's head down and work hard.
I was just sitting in the canteen and got a mug of tea, and I looked out, and the thing that stuns me is the grass is almost luminous. It shines at you. What's the best thing about coming into work in a place like this every day? The smell in the dressing room, getting the boots on, I don't know, the crack. Do you feel the same when you see grass?
We're very privileged in what profession that we do. You know, a lot of people are stuck maybe behind desks and they don't get to, like, we're outside every day kicking a ball about, which as a kid you dream of, and I'm sure people still my age will still think, you know, I wish I was doing that, and it's the best job in the world. I always say that, and I'll always stand by it. And when you come in, you know, if you're in this job and of course there's hard times, but you know, if you're moaning doing this job, then you should look in the real world. The
product of daily work is that thing that happened at the weekend. You know, whether you play for Liverpool or support Liverpool or City or not, we saw a game whereby when the manager was on American TV, after it had all died down on the pitch with Lee Dixon and Graham Lasso, he went, well, you can look at it as a football coach, or you can come to it as a football fan and go, what the fuck was that? So Andy Robertson, what the fuck was that?
Yeah.
As games go, right, irrespective of your participation, what have you ever seen or thought of a 90-minute match like that in your life before?
It was a game that was played at a million miles per hour. You know, we didn't get our breath back. Probably, you know, we were all in the change room and nobody was really speaking, because it was just one of the ones like, what did just happen out there? And you know, the gaffer, I think he just let that loose in his, you know, post-match. But you know, for a neutral point of view, I think, like, all my friends obviously have a look into me, but you know, people you follow on Twitter and all that, we're just loving the game as a neutral. You know, lots of goals, two good teams going at it, and the attacking football was incredible. And defensively, you know, even though there was 7 goals, there was still, you know, a lot of big challenges, you know, tight at the back, especially first half. And it was just one of the games that's football for you. It's one of the games that will probably go down and everyone will look back at, especially at the end of the season, and go, you know, that was a right good game. And you know, the most important thing was we came out on top of it. That was, if you don't come away with the 3 points, then I'm sure Man City have quickly forgotten about it. But what a game, and it was brilliant to be a part of.
I saw, you know, watching it, sort of heaps of talent, that's obvious, pace, commitment. But I wondered, to what degree did strategy or tactics help you win the game? And therefore, I wanted to go back before it. What was the manager's messages to the team or to the defensive unit or to you? And I'm also genuinely really interested for listeners. No trade secrets, obviously. But one of the things that people probably don't think about a lot is that footballers are asked to carry quite a lot of information. And if you play 3 times a week, that's 3 different big chunks of information about team tactics, about an individual opponent. One, what's that process like under Jurgen Klopp for you or the team, the actual information delivery? And 2, what happened on the pitch compared to what he was asking you all to do?
As the manager and all the staff that are behind him, they don't leave, their attention to detail is incredible. So, like you said, we do get a lot of information before the game. We usually know how we're going to set up. That's what pre-season's for. We drill it in and that's our favoured way to play. Of course, we've changed our formation a couple of times this season where you need to adapt, but usually we have the same formation and we know where everyone should be. But against Man City, there's that much that they do that I think we were quite lucky in the way that we played Friday against Everton and we had till the Sunday, so we had a whole week. So one day we could focus on ourselves, the next day we could focus on Man City, but sometimes you don't get that much time.
No.
And I think it was just the gaffer just drilled into us that on our day we can cause people problems, and we showed that. We knew we were going to get tested defensively, which we did, but we tested them going forward, and we capitalised on their mistake.
Tactically, was his point at any stage? I think that if your pressing is really intelligent and they don't get time on the ball, they may make more mistakes than they've shown for weeks. Or was that not an idea?
I think it was more try and press them as high up the pitch, because a lot of people go and play Man City now and they just sit back and try and defend for 90 minutes. Yeah, some people might get lucky and get a draw, but they're world-class players. You can sit back and, I've been at Hull, of course, and against the big teams we did just sit back and defend. Sometimes we would get a 0-0 draw, but in other times they would pick you off anyway. So sometimes it's better to have a goal, but we've got world-class players, so we knew if we could win the ball in dangerous areas, then we would cause them problems. And that's what, in that 8 minutes that we scored 3 goals, I think that's what happened. Mo Salah won the ball high up the pitch. Yeah. We forced the keeper into a mistake. We forced John Stones into a mistake that Roberto managed to capitalise on. So all these mistakes added up, but I think it was because we were putting pressure on them high up the pitch and they didn't quite know how to deal with it.
I think that I've lived in Barcelona for 16 years now, and I was so fortunate that when Guardiola took over at Barcelona, I was able to be a witness and learn a little bit. Yeah. Because I do try and pay attention and pick up. One of the things that the players said that wasn't commonly talked about was they were sort of hanging on every word Pep says. And I know you're supposed to do that with every manager, but all managers are different people, communicate differently. And he has this exceptional way of communicating. But what they also told us, that group of Xavi, Iniesta, Piqué, Messi, whoever, were like that. The more he tells us, do this and this will happen, and it happens, our belief becomes total. So have you experienced that when you see kind of what he tells you to, or the group of coaches tell you to do, and on a game like Sunday, it all comes true in those 3 big moments that change the game? Does it reinforce your enthusiasm for the message and your sort of belief?
Yeah, 100%. I think it's, no matter what kind of level you play at, it's easy to get, a couple of clips and go, look, they do this. But we have that much information that we get to see it, in a lot of their previous games, and we knew how they would set up. We knew their fullbacks would go high, and the gaffer kind of set us up a wee bit differently how to defend against that and make sure all the half spaces were covered when we go and press and don't leave any space in behind, and we managed to do that. So for instance, if they like to switch the ball a lot because they've got pace on the wings, whether it's on my side it was Sterling and Walker, so whoever it was is rapid. Yeah. So I was maybe waiting to go across, and then I had a midfielder that was inside me, because that kept the centre backs in and the midfielder could cover the ball down the line. Because Man City's movement is, this season especially, has been ridiculous. That's why they're 12 points clear, and realistically they'll probably go on and win the league, and it's all because of that. But luckily we managed to stick to the plan that the manager gave us. What's
the intensity of concentration when all of those things, those jigsaw pieces that you've just listed like that, on a personal basis, what's in your head as you're doing all these things correctly?
But I think you just get so fixed on the game, really. Like, I know myself, I just go out there and you do need to remember these things, of course you do, because if you make a mistake with these things, then you've not got a leg to stand on, really, because
I totally
the manager will say, we showed you. But, I think that's maybe why the game was closer than it was, because we put so much into 86, 87 minutes that the last 5 minutes maybe it was just a wee bit of lapse in concentration, and that's why we conceded 2 goals and it was a wee bit tighter. Really, it should have been a more comfortable evening for us. But like the manager said, I think in his pre-match, never mind post-match, he said it didn't matter if we won 1-0 or 3-2, 4-3. It was all about getting the 3 points that day, and we'll have to look at the last 5 minutes. But if you play that good for 86 minutes, then usually you've done enough.
Objective achieved.
Yeah.
I'm not a great authority on NFL. I don't know if you know anything about American football, but it draws me in. So as I try and look back over the years, there's always something like Joe Montana's moment is called the pass. And then there's always the catch. So let's talk about the run. Because it's got mythical status already. And I bet you're going to tell me I was just natural, and of course that's about... What was going through your head?
I didn't really want to be that far out of position, if I'm honest. But when I came in, I was speaking to one of the lads about it, and it was just every pass back, they all gave me a sniff of the ball. I thought, I'm going to get there, I'm going to get there, I'm going to get there. But, if maybe the first pass was a wee bit firmer back I would have left it, because that's me done my job, I've forced my winger back. But at that moment in time, we'd just scored 3 goals, we were 4-1 up, the fans were magnificent, everyone was right on top of us, so we had an extra 10%, and I thought, after the first press, you heard everyone up, and then I was like, I need to keep going, and I don't think it was a foul at the end, if I'm honest, but I couldn't. Usually I'd run up to the referee and argue, but I was completely out of breath. I was just like, get back in position and focus. But it was just one of the moments that, especially when I went to the centre half, because I think everyone now knows how good their goalkeeper is with the ball. Yeah. So I knew he wasn't going to launch it. I knew he was going to take a touch. So I knew he would give me
you
a
were
chance,
a step ahead.
Yeah. So luckily, he was so composed on the ball, I thought he'd maybe panic, but he didn't care. But obviously, it did catch quite a bit of,
But apart from the fact that, because if you go from our point of view, as much as we learn about football and love football, and everybody on social media, everybody loved it, because you can really quickly and cheaply say, look at that commitment, that's fantastic, that's what I would do if I... But I think we've had enough interviews where we talk about, what kind of environment is there under a coach or at a football club, and creative risk management in your head about what kind of environment. Is there a blame environment? You were analysing there, or certainly you've got a very good version of what was going through your head at the time there, but analytically you were going, it's the right thing to do. It might be, but your brain was functioning. Are you just like that naturally, or is there a culture here of acceptance that if you think you're doing the right thing and you take a creative risk, if it doesn't quite come off, there won't be blame unless it was directly disobeying a tactical order? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, of course. I think everyone's seen us this season, and probably since the managers came in, really, that he likes, as soon as we lose the ball, then it's all about pressing and trying to get that ball back, because if we've got the ball, then we can control the game. Mm-hmm. We can't concede goals when we've got the ball. We can only score goals, really. So I think from the terms of pressing, I don't think he'll ever tell somebody not to press. He would maybe prefer that we were hunting in 2s and 3s instead of just one man pressing. But I knew if I was to go there, I think it was Gini Wijnaldum, I knew he would cover into left back. I knew somebody would drop into midfield. So from that point of view, if they did get through, then I would just have to get back, but people would have been in my position.
That's really good to know. This is the pre-season training, this is the work that you've done already. You don't have to look, there'll be my smart colleagues who've got the same work ethic will be slotting into where they should be. Yeah,
it's not, it's not about, it's about learning other people's positions as well. It's about, if especially, he likes our full-backs getting forward, and when we go forward we need protection, of course we do, because if we go 40 yards and put a rubbish cross, then they are on the break, so we need people covering us, and that's the way it always has been. But we also need to cover our centre-backs or our centre mid if they go wandering. So it's all about learning other people's positions as well as yourselves, and I think as a squad we're quite good at that.
We have, because so many people listen to us, we ask them occasionally for questions. So Ben Cropper has written in to say, for Andy, as one of his players, how best would you describe Klopp's vision of heavy metal football? Now you've described a bit of it there, but is there more to say? And I've heard the phrase, what is heavy metal football?
Yeah, I'm not entirely sure yet either.
Okay.
But, the gaffer's way of playing is very attractive. I think that's why, for instance, we can get, the new signings, for instance, Virgil van Dijk's had the pick of the clubs really, and the meetings with, obviously, when he came in and spoke to the manager, then that's what sold him. The club, obviously, the history and everything sold him, but I know from my point of view, the first meeting that I had with him was a very successful one, and it did take me time to get used to the way of his style of play. Of course it did.
What were the points of adaptation? What did you have to...
Well, from my point of view, it was like I said previously, when we were at Hull and in the Premier League, we defended more so. So my mindset was more trying to change from we're defending against these teams, and now I'm the actual attacking team. When Liverpool came to Hull, we tried to hit them on the counter, we sat back, but now we're the ones. So I think in my debut against Crystal Palace, I had more touches than anyone on the pitch. But I probably had more touches than any game I've ever played in my career because we dominated the ball. We had about 80% possession, which I've never really been involved in.
From having seen you previously, you'd be quite happy with that, though.
Yeah.
You would want to be on the ball.
Oh, 100%.
There are many successful defenders who, the less time they're on the ball, the less threat is going on, less chance of mistake. But I didn't anticipate that's not your point of view.
No, it's, I was delighted because it meant that I was making an impact. I was putting crosses in the box, I was driving forward. But, to get your concentration's completely different because, of course, we cannot switch off defensively because we get hit on the counter-attack because we have most of the possession in most games. But now your concentration's also, right, when I'm in the final third, I need to pick the pass, I need to do that. But in Hull, I would maybe have 2 attacks, but now I'm having 10 attacks. So it's now your ratios are a lot different and, your percentages have to be a lot higher. And that's something that I'm still working on and still trying to adapt because, probably especially recently when I've got in the final third, crossing and stuff like that maybe hasn't been up to scratch, but it's just because I'm putting in more crosses now, so I just need to get that consistency of if I had 3 crosses at Hull, 2 would be good, and that's fine. But now I'm having maybe 10 crosses at Liverpool and maybe 6 are good, but that's not good enough in my terms. So, it's just about improving and all the time and learning under the manager, and in my opinion there's no better to learn under.
Do you do extra?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, I look, especially after games, I think it's key to, we all get our clips sent out that's just individual clips, and, I'll always take, half an hour out of my time to look at them because I think even, the bad stuff, you need to learn your lessons, and that's why you don't, of course you learn stuff off the good stuff because it makes you feel good, but you learn more off the bad stuff because you think, the next time that isn't happening. And, I've always been like that even when, I was up in Scotland and I was down at Hull, I always kind of took time out to look at that. But of course, if you think there's a area to improve on, then, people do extra outside in the training, and especially, young players, because we're not the finished article. And
some coaches, I don't know what your experience is, some coaches say like, the training session finishes at 12:30, you're in the door. Everybody in. We've talked to a number of pros, and there are some who had to push back against the coach saying, no, I'm going out to hit the ball 25 more times, whether it's a free kick or a penalty or a shot or a cross or whatever. Are there rules about, you can't do extra, can do extra, and out there and actually saying I'm taking an extra half hour and everybody else has gone in?
I don't think the manager will ever stand in your way, whether it's maybe a day before a game or 2 days before a game, then maybe he's like, lads, everyone in. We've got a game in 2 days and it's not really the time. But especially when it's Saturday to Saturday, I think lads do take time out to, whether it's on the pitch or off the pitch, whether it's gym work or whatever, then they maybe take time out because that's when we've got a longer build up to games. But the amount of Saturday games we've got is very, it's minimum, and when it's 3 games a week, then it's all about getting your body ready really for the game, and it's about maybe, taking it easy, but when it's training, go 100% in training, and when it's over, get in and relax. So, it just depends what you've got on really that week.
Well, if we step away from actual football for a second, something special is happening here. From I watch from a distance, the fact that those 4 players, one of whom was going out, was the Fab Four. Liverpool will always have a very, very special, strong, robust, probably working class football culture. It's probably one of the most popular and known football cultures anywhere in the world. But as society changes, as people change, I think the atmosphere, certainly from when I was younger, the atmosphere has changed here. Yet there's something now where there's more of a fusion between the crowd and the team, or maybe the playing style, or maybe the crowd and the manager and the playing style. And like it or not, you seem to be a part of that. In that, I guess it's nice that the crowd chants your name or whatever, but what is the relationship between a Liverpool player and the fans, and what does it feel like? And do you never play for it, I suppose, do you? Or
I think you always, like, every player wants the fans on board, and I think, you know, as a squad and as, you know, the 11 that go out there, we all want the fans to get behind us, because we know if the fans are behind us at Anfield, then they can give us an extra yard. And I think on Sunday that was a big factor. They maybe put the fear factor into some Man City players, but they gave us an extra 10%.
It does impact on you, is that then?
100%, because if you know the fans are cheering everything that you do, then you're like, you know, they're behind us, so it gives you maybe that extra yard, it gives you that spring in your step.
Wow.
But, you know, I think from that point of view that our squad does that. You know, we don't let our standards drop, so if somebody's maybe slacking a wee bit, we're told straight away. You see the manager, how active he is on the side of the park. I don't want to know what distance he covers in a game either, but, you know, he gets the fans on board, he gets the players, he's always shouting at us, he's always getting us going. And when you've got somebody on the side of the park like that, then it's, if you're ever maybe struggling or whatever, then you can look over and, you know, he'll come on and get you going. And if you can't react to that, then, you know, I suppose you're going to be struggling. Yeah, you're going to be struggling in this industry. Yeah,
and it's the cop.
Yeah,
I mean, it's the cop.
I know. When you're shooting down and you're going towards a cop, then I think, you know, there's no better feeling. You know, celebrating in front of them and all that, especially, you know, like against Everton when we scored late on and stuff. You know, Big Virgil would nodded home, and, you know, all of them were going wild, and, you know, the cop's famous, and, you know, if you ask probably every supporter in world football, do they know about the cop, then I'm sure they would.
Well, what about your parents are both with us, right? So I guess it's exciting and emotional for them as proud parents and people who have had a big role in how you've developed. But your dad was a good footballer.
Yeah, he was, yeah, up until he had a back problem, but, you know, my uncle played at a decent level and stuff like that, so football's always been based. My dad was good pals with Charlie Nicholas and Jim Duffy. That was
a fellow guest on this series, Charlie Nick.
Yeah, Charlie Nicholas, who my family and his family are still very close, so my dad's always been involved in football, and to be fair, my mum's always been involved in football. Both of them had season tickets at Celtic from an early age, and me and my brother joined in when I think I got my first season ticket when I was 18 months old at Celtic, and up until I was 18, so I've been going all my life. But, you know, obviously when I started playing with Queen's Park and it was Saturdays and I was playing all the time, when, you know, Celtic were playing, we had to all give it up because my mum and dad wanted to come and support me, of course they did, and I couldn't go to the games anymore. So then, you know, their support kind of changed, and you know, obviously they always supported me, but we always went together to Celtic, but then they were going to, you know, maybe like the lesser stadiums as such as like your Stranraers and Berwick Rangers to come and watch me. So, you know, they've both been very supportive of me throughout my career. And
I was thinking, because, you know, I knew that Charlie was a family friend, and Charlie turned Liverpool down.
Yeah.
Like, sat and explained to us in this same big interview about how Kenny and Graham Souness were on the phone and said, this is right for you. And Charlie was just tiny bit headstrong about, I'll go and find my own pad somewhere else and make my own impact. And he talked to us about really how brutally he suffered in London as a youngster, and had a call for his sister to come down and just be with him and be a companion for him because he was lost and lonely, which you'd never believe about Charlie, with his confidence and his flair and so on and so forth. But mention your dad, because presumably Liverpool meant to him what Liverpool kind of means to me at my age. You know, the moving, swaying cop, you know, the anthem dominating, You'll Never Walk Alone, dominating everybody's appreciation of social culture in football. So when Liverpool comes along for you, is it extra exciting for him? Did he have a relationship with Liverpool? Did he, you know, Celtic and Liverpool they're not miles apart.
Yeah, I think the only relationship we had, the first thing he said to me when it was coming was that there was, you know, one day that he hated Liverpool in his life, and that was because Kenny Dalglish left Celtic.
Of course,
and that was it. And that was the only reason. And he said, once he got over that, then he supported Kenny Dalglish at Liverpool again. So that was, you know, he hated that Celtic had lost such an icon. So
I feel that way when Everton, long before you were born, signed Joey Harper. It took me about 20 years to forgive them. It really did, because he's the King Joey of Aberdeen, you know. And I know exactly what your dad.
But you know, obviously for them and for my brother and for my girlfriend and all that, it was a massive moment for us, and they all came down when I was signing, and we went on the tour of the stadium and stuff. Not that we needed to know the history of the club, but, you know, it was nice to take in, and, you know, so, you know, they love coming down to the games, they love watching, and obviously, you know, hearing my name getting sang and that, you know, it was a proud moment for them, you know, never mind me.
You situated in Queen's Park. I'm extremely interested in that because, again, across this series, we've talked who would have been the most powerful on it. Maybe Damien Duff, for example, about the atrocious way that kids of his age were treated as apprentices, but he wouldn't change a thing of it.
Yeah.
And it made him. Yeah. And he went into some detail, including about Kenny Dalglish, about how tough that was at Blackburn. And then again and again and again, we'll talk to maybe managers in this series who say kids are not made of the same stuff anymore. Now, I guess it must have felt shit that somebody got it wrong at Celtic and said to you, you're not right for us, you're not going to make it. And you end up at Queen's Park, and you're doing, if I'm not wrong, you do a lot of those tasks for a different reason, because Queen's Park is a different kind of club, it's an amateur club.
Yeah.
So you have tasks and work at Hampden. And it might not have felt so good at the time, but I think I'm asking, how did that feel? And do you think, looking back on it retrospectively, did it change you or teach you?
It was the best thing that happened to me. Now, obviously, looking back on it, like you said, being a kind of boyhood fan of Celtic and stuff, it was obviously tough for everyone that was in, me and my family getting released and all that. But it was the best thing that happened for me because, like you said, it's hard because I'm still young as well. But you do look at, kids that are at the big clubs early doors, and there's very few of them that have that kind of like old-fashioned stuff. It's partly everyone's problem as well because we allow them. Maybe they pay them too much money. Maybe we don't give them the jobs that I used to clean. Even when I was at Dundee United, I was playing. I got a Scotland camp stuff, and I was still cleaning boots because we all got jobs, and that was it. And you had to do it. You got rewarded at the end with a bung or whatever at the end of the season, but off one of the experienced pros. But that just keeps you on the ground. When we had three of us that were doing really well at the time, of me, Ryan Gould and John Suter, they were obviously 2 years younger than me, but it did keep us on the ground because we're thinking, right, I've scored a goal at the weekend, right, Monday, cleaning the boots after the game, you're cleaning the experienced pros, and it helped us massively. And at Queen's Park, obviously, we done the same, and I think that's maybe gone now. Because the higher up you go, even when I was at Hull and stuff, the young lads didn't really have any jobs or anything like that, and they maybe just get comfortable. It's important, I think, to keep them all hungry, and they should be hungry anyway, but keeping them on their feet.
Hard work and slightly unpleasant tasks.
Yeah,
make you dig a bit deeper.
It's no secret. Footballers are obviously wrapped in cotton wool as such, and they don't really know what the kind of world's like, and whether that's like sweeping the changing room, cleaning boots or whatever, then it's a task that people don't like doing, but it's something that I think as an apprentice you should be doing. I believe that anyway. But
I'm sorry to plagiarise it because you've told other people it, but it's such a cool story. Tell me about Vinny Kompany. How does your relationship with Vincent Kompany begin? And how does it end? I say that because I absolutely admire him so much.
Yeah.
He's slated for this series. We were talking to somebody yesterday who knows him really well. He says, football coaching, he'll be brilliant at, but he might not do that because he'll probably be the president of Belgium. He's so political and bright and whatever. So I'm a huge admirer, and I'm led to believe that you two are close. So how did it begin?
I wouldn't quite say.
Okay, all right.
I don't think we have a relationship. I think if you sat here with Vincent Kompany and asked if he knew me
after Sunday, I know it's going to be a little bit more bumpy. Let me take you back to Hampden.
Yeah. Well, I was working. I was only 16, 17, and basically when Scotland played or there was concerts on, then the guy Andy McGlennon would bring us in and give us, say, £10 an hour or whatever, so we'd work 3 hours and we'd get 30 quid, and we all thought, brilliant, we're working with our teammates. It's brilliant.
If there's a good gig, I would take £10 an hour and work there now.
So, Scotland were playing Belgium, and I think Vincent Kompany was injured, so, I was just walking by, and I think I gave him a programme or whatever, and that was about the extent of it. I just said, do you want a programme? He said, yeah, and I walked off, and he's probably thinking, who's that? But, and then I think, somebody tweeted him when I was at Dundee United just after I'd got my Scotland call up, and I think he tweeted back saying, it was an inspirational story and all that, and then I think that was the end of it really. Then obviously a couple of times I've played against him, but he probably doesn't.
I just like this fact he sent you a message.
Yeah.
I just thought that's really cool.
Yeah,
that's a guy who's in touch with
especially
reality.
when I was at Dundee United, all the next day in training, all the lads were slating me and everything, and I kind of wish I'd never done for that day. But then once it all settled down, obviously it was for such a good pro and a good player, to kind of take out his time to tweet that was nice.
Kind of feels like he is in touch with football and reality and dreams.
Yeah,
and that,
100%.
For all the slagging that you took.
Yeah, for all the slagging. Yeah, he must get a lot of tweets every day, and to see that one, then obviously he thought it was worth it. But now it's probably forgotten about.
So that one covers Rehman Mohammed's question, which he was asking about. Great to see a Scot. Does it give you a different perspective if you've worked a little bit for a living? Darryl Geraghty, a great supporter of the podcast. Who was your hero and who did you model your game on?
Well, I wouldn't say I modelled my game on, but as any Celtic fan growing up in my age, my hero was Henrik Larsson, of course it was. What he done for our club was unbelievable, and I think everyone loved him.
What did he do for your club? Describe him.
He took him, he basically, I wouldn't say he carried our club, because we had a really good squad then, with the likes of, Stan Petrov and Chris Sutton and John Hartson and all these top players, Neil Lennon, but for him to stay at Celtic for so long, especially when, a lot of big clubs were after him, was brilliant. And, he just, the amount of goals he scored, and, especially that, when we got to the UEFA Cup final, the amount of goals he scored in the campaign, and obviously, everyone was gutted that you get beat in the final to Porto, but I think no more so than him. After scoring 2 goals, you would think that would be enough, but obviously that was the start of Jose Mourinho and Porto. They went on to win the Champions League the next year as well, but what a career and what a player, and it was one that's why Parkhead was probably sold out, because of Henrik Larsson. And
did you watch how he played though?
Yeah, I think his movement, his finishing was incredible. He knew when to chip it, when to blast it, and for somebody that was 5 foot, whatever he was, in the air,
it defies belief.
What a leap he had. But I was quite fortunate, because obviously I was growing up, and at that time I didn't know I wanted to be a fullback. I played in numerous of positions, because you were probably playing with 3 teams at that time, so you played all different positions. But I was quite fortunate that I got to work under and watch Jackie McNamara, because he was a great fullback for Celtic.
Both he and his dad were classy footballers.
Yeah, and to work under him at Dundee United for my first professional year set me in good stead, and I'll always stand by that. And since then I've been really lucky to have such good coach.
Henrik came to, I was very fortunate, I was in Barcelona, Henrik came to Barcelona, and I knew what a good player he was. But to see Henrik Larsson getting a bigger cheer when he came on than Ronaldinho was getting, at that club, that demanding club with legends everywhere, and for them, he broke his leg in the November Classico in his first season, was out, watched the system, had learned it by the time he came back in, and in a season and a half utterly stole their hearts, everybody around the club. It was a truly extraordinary phenomenon. He's a good role model to learn from, but I did want to get from you whether you'd taken things from his playing style and applied it to your attitude or your movement.
I definitely don't have the finishing that he does. Nowhere near it. I would love to, but no. From that, his attitude was, well, from a fan watching, you could tell his attitude was spot on, because he didn't want to miss a game, and when he was injured, he was gutted, and when he came back, he was in top condition, like you just said, and that, I think that sums up a top pro.
Peter Gordon is more of a comment than a question. Top class performance against Everton and Manchester City, the Kop belting out your name, music to the ear of all Scottish fans. Keep doing what you're doing, as it's just great to watch. By the way, when will you let sterling out of your pocket? You don't have to. Let's just let that one lie. Chuning Yan says for Andy Robertson, how different is it playing for Liverpool as compared to Hull? Is there a huge difference in culture and facilities? Maybe the facilities comparison is a bit unfair, but what did Hull and Steve Bruce teach you, and how did it feel? Did you make your Premier League debut against the reigning champions and beat them? Against Leicester?
No, that wasn't my Premier League debut, because we got relegated the first season I was there. Right. My Premier League debut was against QPR away, and we won 1-0. But the first game was against Leicester when we got promoted again. But no, my first game was QPR away.
What kind of experience was that?
It was brilliant. I don't think I was only in the door a week, and we played against Stuttgart in a friendly, and I played wing back, and I managed to score at the back post, and then on the Friday just before the game, Liam Rosinha, the right back, he was going to play left back for the game against QPR, and I think he injured his hip or something, and then the gaffer had pulled me in the morning on Saturday and said, look, I'm going to throw you in, and straight away you start thinking, this is the Premier League, and you just start thinking, you hope it goes well and everything, and we won 1-0, we kept a clean sheet. I think I cleared one off the line, and I played well, and that just set me in good stead for Hull. I obviously gained the manager's trust massively in that first game, because that's what it's all about, and from there I don't think I really looked back.
Do you ever get nervous?
I wouldn't say I get nervous in terms of, I'm shaking to go out or whatever, but there's different games that you get a wee bit, a wee fire in your belly, and I always have fire in belly whoever I'm playing, but
extra adrenaline,
yeah. Like for instance, the derby and against Man City, there was a wee bit, and like when Scotland played England, it was one of the games that you're like, this is a big game, here we go, do you know what I mean? And it's just about all using that kind of, that energy in the right way, because some people can use it in the wrong way, some people can use it in the right way, and I think that's where I'm quite good, because I can use it in the right way and put in a good performance.
I go back to the Hull thing. What did Hull and Steve Bruce teach you?
Steve Bruce done a lot for me, because
big character, eh?
Big character.
I'm a fan. I like him. He's been very good to me over the years.
Great character, and I think he's good to a lot of people. I think in the squad, he has this personality that all these players just want to run through a brick wall for, and that's why Steve Bruce is such a successful manager, because he has that about him. And I was gutted when he left Hull, obviously for one reason or another, but I actually met him on holiday this summer, and I had a good chat with him, and he was just telling me if I ever need advice, then give me a phone, and he was such an influential figure that I've had, and I think it was two and a bit years I had under him, and it was it ended in promotion, of course, and it was
in a promotion, not just like that, a goal in the semi-final.
Yeah,
for you,
and an own goal in the second leg.
Okay, let's just strike that from the record. Yeah. But the 3-0 first leg win was enough to cover out that 2-0 second leg defeat. And own goals don't count.
Nah, don't count.
Through,
exactly.
If you go through. And then the final. What kind of experience is that? I mean, joyous and you win, but that must be a big coming of age moment when you play with that much pressure. Also, people talk about the amount of money that's on. Is there more pressure in that game?
When I look back on that day, I hated it up until 7 o'clock at night when the final was.
Really?
The problem with that game was, what you want is it's an early kick-off, because you don't really sleep at night. It's the adrenaline, and all the lads were up early. We had to wait till 5:15. It was roasting hot and all that. But
and the city probably for the week before is just on you.
It was bouncing. The city was, and obviously we I think the Sheffield Wednesday fans were brilliant that day. I will stand by that. They were magnificent. The Hull fans, they were outnumbered, but they made their noise when they had to. But I think as a footballer, you don't think a lot, like from the outside, everyone says, this is the £100 million game or whatever. But you don't really think about that. You just think we've got a chance here of walking up the steps at Wembley, winning at this massive stadium, and our whole season could lead up to what we've tried to achieve. And that was the biggest thing for us. That was the biggest thing for us, because we knew we didn't want to disappoint. We had a good squad that season. Really, looking back on it, we should have probably been more contenders to going up automatically. But once we got in the playoffs, Derby were a bogey team that season. They beat us at home 3-0, and we got beat away 4-0. So we were a wee bit, we need to get by Derby, we need to get
that first game was gigantic.
That first game was massive for us, and luckily we came out the blocks and we blew them away. And then the second leg, we had a lead to protect, and we should have been better, because we should have just went, it's 0-0, try and go and win the game.
I remember watching it and I was thinking that all over the place, don't know which twist or stick.
Because we got in at 2-0 at half time, and I remember the gaffer walking in, and that was the first time I think he didn't really know what to say, because we had, all he'd said during the week and the 10 days leading up to this game was, it goes out the window. We need the boys to, we need to come out of this shell.
Start 0-0 again.
Because it was hard, because even the first half, when they went 2-0 up, we were wasting time with throw-ins and stuff, and I couldn't get my head around it. We're 2-0 down here. But that's what it is, and that was my first real experience of a two-legged tie.
But match management is a difficult art.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, and I think we've got. I think I've got better at it. We got to the League Cup semi-final last season with 2 legs over Man United, and it was a wee bit better and stuff like that. But that was my first experience, and it was really hard to get your head around, because you're thinking you're 2-0 down here, but you're going through. So relax. And I remember Derby had a massive chance early on in the second half, and I think if they took that I don't think we would have got there.
Do you talk to yourself during games?
That game I did. That game I was trying to shake myself up and shake everyone else up, because we all went in a shell. There was not one of us that performed that night. But at the end of the day, the objective was to get to Wembley, and we done it.
I hear you.
And with that, I remember after their big chance, I think it was about 50 minutes, it was Craig Bryson that came off his shin and he just put it wide. And then after that, they never had a chance, and we had a couple of chances, and then that's when I felt 70 minutes or so I thought we were there. I thought we were quite comfortable.
And you hated the tension or the long wait and the heat, but the day of the final ends well. A talented Scot scores, I think, if I'm right. Is it Snodgrass scores?
No, he set it up.
in the final?
Diami, Snodgrass set it up, yeah.
Very talented footballer.
I had a golden chance as well. I missed an open goal about 7 yards out, I think it was. The ball was bobbling, to be fair.
It's a terrible pitch. Famously
terrible pitch.
Tatty field, aye.
But
who could expect you to finish that one?
To be fair, that day we controlled that game. I thought that was a good side, just better on the day. We were, even though it was 1-0 and it was tight, we were a good team, and we had chances, and I don't think Sheffield Wednesday really had a shot on target. Sure. The only thing was the last 10 minutes they brought, I don't know if you remember, that season they had about 4 massive strikers, that big Nahu or whatever,
yeah, I know you
about
mean.
6'6", and he came on, and then the big other lad came on, and we were just hanging, Jao I think his name was, we were hanging on, and then, the final whistle, it's party time really.
Well, that's a great phrase, because one of the things we do really badly in this industry is we ask a footballer or a manager in a moment of their head is exploding, there's, it's Times Square at Hogmanay, there's fireworks going off, and how do you feel? And there's no chance of getting some sort of magnificent thesis of an answer. Fucking brilliant is how I feel. That's what everybody wants to say. But when you have that joy of we've done it, we're up, and you compare it to having lost a cup final with United, and the stress of the second leg against Derby, and it begins to sink in. What's the process? How do the pieces fall into place? We really are up, or the first face you see that or how does it unfold?
I remember walking down the steps, and obviously all our family were in, right? My mum, dad, and Rachel, my girlfriend, were all sitting there, and I just grabbed them all, 3 of them, I think, at the same time, and just hugged them all. And me and Robert Snodgrass had shared we got a box for all our other families, so my brother, my uncle and all that were there. But that was stressful. Mind you, our box got cancelled the day before we were going down. Mr. Snodgrass had failed, and then we had to sort a new one, so we had 20 people coming down from Glasgow.
Oh, talk about stress.
With no tickets. But do you know what? Looking back on it, we said that the next day, we said, do you know what? That took our mind off the game, which was actually a nice distraction. But if it didn't get sorted,
Did he claim he planned all this?
No, I was killing him. I was fuming at him. And I was lucky it got sorted, but then we went up to the box, still in our kit. We ran up to the box, and everyone was going, but it's Glasgow boys just going mental. All our pals, everyone, and it was just, and it was brilliant. And then obviously we went, we had a big family party back in the hotel we stayed at in London, and it was great because, everyone was in a good mood, and your season was over, and it was just like, you can sit back and...
Premier League, here we come.
Yeah, Premier League, here we come.
Does that joy with Hull in any way kind of draw back the loss of 500 miles? Because you say here that Michael Dawson's version of 500 miles was so bad that he ruined the song for you forever. So how does it, like, losing a great song and winning promotion with Hull, how does the whole thing...
Michael Dawson's...
Talk us through it.
Him standing up in that chair singing it is up there with the worst experiences I've had in football. He just signed, and obviously I was knowing Michael Dawson, watching him playing the Champions League, playing for Tottenham, being the captain, everything like that. I thought he's going to get up there, be confident and enjoy it. He went up and he was a bag of nerves, and he just he didn't know the tune to start. He didn't know how it went. He forgot the words, so then he wanted me and Snods and Alan McGregor to sing along. We weren't singing along, we were making it as awkward as we could.
It's on him.
And since I've heard that song again, I don't like it. I turn it off straight away, and it's a shame. It's a good song.
It was. Look, we're winding up your time. You've been very generous with your time, but without, again, I'm not looking for any state secrets, but Coutinho has moved over to where I live, and I well remember a couple of years ago Gary McAllister saying, this guy in training, he said, Graham, you want to You know, he's a Barcelona player. You won't believe. And for a man of that talent, of Gary's talent, to say that about Coutinho, other than what we can, see from watching him, what are Barcelona getting, in your opinion, at least?
His talent is second to none. He's a world-class player, and Phil in training and everything, he doesn't leave any stone unturned. And I think it shows the person that he is. More importantly, obviously there was a lot of rumours in the summer. I don't think he hid the fact that he wanted to go, but when he came back, a lot of people's heads go.
His form was super.
His form for the 5 months was brilliant, and the goals he scored, the assists, everything that we done, there was a massive part for our team for this. Of course, the manager, all the players, all the fans would have loved him to stay until the end of the season. But when an opportunity comes like that for Phil, I think you've seen his post on social media or whatever, it's a dream come true for him, and at the end of the day, the manager decided not to stand in his way. And for Barcelona, they've gained a world-class player, but more importantly, a lovely person, and for somebody that is that good a player, he's down to earth, and he was great to have in the squad. And
he's one of these guys you can trust in any situation. I'll give him the ball because I know it'll stick, or he shows for the ball.
Oh, and he wants the ball anywhere, doesn't he? He comes and shows everywhere and anywhere, and his composure and his technique is unbelievable. And to play for a club like Barcelona, I suppose it has to be, and for the price tag that they paid, they had to be sure on him. And I think it's good for both parties, and I think it will definitely pay off for the player and for the club.
Talking about greats then, and finishing on this, your dad was a little bit cross at Liverpool for signing Ken Dalglish, but Kenny's still a big presence here. Do you notice that? Do you hear from him? Do you see him around?
Yeah, he texts me quite a lot. He texted me after the game against Man City, and he pressed the FaceTime button by mistake at 23:55 and he was FaceTiming me. And it was one of the moments I was asleep and I woke up in the morning, and you still showed my girlfriend straight when I was like, look, that's Kenny Dalglish, and that's just it's wow. But he's been brilliant for me since the day I went in, and he's always asked him and his wife about are me and my girlfriend sitting in, is my kid, is he okay, did we need anything, everything like that. And that's the kind of man he is. Obviously I was lucky enough to be at the game that the stand got unveiled, and it was obviously a proud moment for him and his family, but it just shows you what impact he had on this club. And obviously I know it from Scottish football, he's got a massive impact on Celtic and Scottish football as a whole, and what a player he was from what my dad and that say. So unfortunately I'm not old enough to quite know how he played, but I now know him on a personal level, and as a man, you couldn't ask for much better.
You seem to me to be carrying on the Scottish legacy quite nicely. A fabulous pleasure to watch a Scottishman who plays football the way I like to watch it, for club and country. And not a surprise, given the research we did, to find that you talk about the game as entertainingly as you play it. Andy Robertson, thank you very much.
Thanks very much.
That was great fun.
Thank you.
Hope you enjoyed that, and willing to bet you did. This interview was put together with help from Kenny Miller at the SFA and the marvellous Matt McCann at Liverpool, a Champions League level media man, someone who's dedicated to great storytelling around his football club, and who, from my point of view and your point of view, needs to be valued and appreciated. Most of all, it was down to Andy Robertson, a talented, considered and interesting young man. Gracias, crack, as they would say over here in La Liga.